take bad photos. That, I will tell you, is a very big tip. How's it going? So today is going to be a little bit of an interesting video. It's not going to be a very flashy video. It's not going to be tips on how to edit things, but these are things that as a photographer you can do every single day, and you probably don't, but that's okay. My name is Will. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, this is my channel. And if you're a repeat, welcome back. It's always good to see you. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what pretty much everybody in every single industry does. And that's if you're learning something or doing something, and that is practice. Now it's a lot of, well, it's kind of a boring term, realistically. Like practicing, especially if you've done this a lot, and let's say you're a professional photographer, practicing seems kind of boring, so to speak. But that's where it falls off. So for example, let's say you're wanting to be a musician, you're a drummer, or a football player, or any kind of profession. Well, they practice a lot. They're not just performing on stage or performing in the arena. They are practicing on their off time, and this is something you don't necessarily see. So as a photographer, it's actually really, really important to practice. Now, whether you're a landscape photographer or a portrait photographer or a real estate photographer, it really doesn't matter because you can practice anywhere. But let's put this in perspective a little. As when I first started, I went out all the time shooting. I was aspiring landscape photographer. I wanted to take pictures of everything, and I did. Every single day I was out taking hundreds and hundreds of photos, and my skill level greatly increased. And then I would edit those photos and my skill level greatly increased, but I was working and practicing on the daily. None of this was making me money or anything like that yet, but I was practicing, I was learning. And then, well, for one thing, because I completely overshot my area, I kind of got bored with the area. And that was one of my mistakes, was I didn't keep going out and shooting. I also kind of got a little bit more into scrolling through Instagram and watching YouTube and all of that stuff. And I found myself kind of wishing of other things, wishing that I could go off to Iceland on a whim, wishing I could go out to, I don't know, Europe, or go over to Yosemite, or go down to some really nice place in the Maldives. All of these people that you see all the time going to these locations. Or, because Instagram floods your feed with all of these things, you see them all the time. And for me, I just couldn't, afford that. It would be nice, but I loved taking photos, and I was now wishing that I was doing that, going to those locations rather than going out and actually taking the photos. So that's one thing that I found really kind of hindered me. Now, photography, and this is a completely made up statistic that I made up, I find is 30% learning and 70% doing. That means that it is more of a doing art. You have to go out and do it. You're not gonna learn by sitting in a studio fiddling with your camera. You're not gonna learn by sitting on your couch saying, go take pictures. This is not gonna work. You have to take your camera out and go practice. So whether you want to do landscape or portraits, it doesn't really matter. In your area, go out and practice. If, let's say, you have a little forest or a building, or you have a friend who wants to get their picture taken, go out and take photos of them. Try different things, try different styles, try different settings, do all different things. Try only detail shots, or try only close-ups, or try only wide. Give yourself a challenge. Be like, okay, how can I tell a story by just shooting details? Or how can I tell a story with just shooting wide? What kind of picture can I take by doing X? Get unique. But that's a really important thing, is to practice and to continue to practice, not just work for the job, but it's the fun of it. So keep practicing, that's gonna help a lot. Okay, number 2, don't be afraid of your camera settings. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, a lot of times when you first get a camera, or maybe you've been shooting a long time and you're just kind of getting a little lazy on the settings. Don't pretend like you don't do that. I've done that. But don't be afraid of your settings. So on your camera, you have 3 settings. You have the shutter, you have the ISO, and you have the f-stop. These 3 settings work together to make incredible exposures on photos. Now, this is not a video about settings, but I just want to make a note about it. I see time and time again people take or complain about blurry or soft photos, and 9 out of 10 times the reason is because their shutter is too low. They put this bad boy into aperture priority or auto, and they don't watch their settings. They take a picture not realizing that it's a little dark, and the camera has dropped the shutter speed to 1/20th of a second, and they're taking a picture of their friend. And yeah, that maybe the friend is standing still, but at 1/20th of a second, your camera movement on your hand is going to cause it to be soft or blurry. And you might get lucky and you might get a nice crisp photo, but don't be afraid to adjust your settings. Don't be afraid to take a look. Like, look at them and be like, oh, my shutter is really low. Okay, good. Switch it to manual. Adjust your settings. And if you don't know how to do this, what should you do? That's right. Tip number 1, practice. You should have been practicing before you did this. That way you know how to fix that. And that is honestly the biggest point of sharp photos, is the shutter is not fast enough. An easy method, an easy calculation can be, let's say your millimeter is 50 millimeters. You need to be shooting at least 1/125th to just get rid of camera shake. If there's movement in the image, if you're moving, 1/125th is probably not going to be fast enough. So double it, go to 1/250th. If you still get blur, raise it more until you stop getting blur. But don't be afraid of your settings. If you have to raise your ISO a little, that's okay too. But play with them so you can get good, sharp, crisp photos. That I cannot stress enough. And if you're having trouble with it, what can you do? That's right, you can practice. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Number 3 is really simple: composition and light. Now, I say really simple, but composition and light are neither really nor simple because they are very in-depth, but you can keep it simple. The easiest way to work with composition is simply to practice it. Go figure, you see where this is going. But also look at other photos. Look at people on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, your favorite photographers, and look at how their photo is composed. Look at where the subject is. Look where there's negative space. Look where there's light. Look where, look at all of these different things, and then you can recreate it. You can emulate those compositional tools. Now, you do have grids. You have like the rule of thirds, the golden spiral, and all of these different things, all of these compositional guides to help you compose different photos. And those are very, very helpful. But essentially, composition is very simple. If you look at the photo and it looks good, it was probably composed well. If it doesn't look good or looks awkward, well, what can you do? Can you crop it in? Can you crop it out? Can you add more space? You just learn these by trial and error, or by, you guessed it, number 1, practicing. Take a photo of a tree and take it in many different ways. Take it with the tree centered, take it with it to the left, take it with it to the right, take it with it high or low. Take 75 photos of this tree, look at them all and be like, you know what? I like this one because the tree is on the bottom left and there's this branch hanging out to the right, and because I took it on the bottom left and the branch is going out, it looks really good. See? Practice. That is also a huge thing. And finally, the last thing, and probably the most underrated one, is shooting at a different perspective. So I get told a lot that my photos feel like they're traveling through a photo. And that's because I use layers. Now, before we get into all that, think, when you're walking down a road or walking on a trail, how are you seeing things? We'll call it eye level, right? Everyone always sees from eye level because we're not crawling around or walking on a handstand. Everyone's walking normally. So when you take a photo, most people, here's a funny thing, go out where there's a lot of people and just look at people taking photos. Just look, and I guarantee 99%, probably even 100%, will take their camera and they will see something and be like, ooh, I want to take a photo of that. And they'll raise their camera and they'll take a photo. They'll raise their phone, they'll take a photo. Not one single person will take it and go, oh, you know what? Let me flip this upside down, put it down on the ground and see how that looks. Or let me get behind this wall and shoot around the wall. You won't see this because people always do click, click. They're shooting at eye level because it's comfortable, it's natural. But if you can change the perspective, shoot through a tree, shoot from the ground level, shoot higher down, shoot up low or up high, find something to shoot around like a building, find a window to shoot through, I guarantee your photos just by that will greatly improve. And I mean, I'm telling you, this also comes into composition as well, but these are huge tips. So take all these last three and practice each one and take bad photos. That, I will tell you, is a very big tip. Take bad photos, because if you take bad photos, you'll know that that's a bad photo and you won't do it again. By taking bad photos, you learn way more. It's a weird tip, but it works. I guarantee doing one of these, even just once a week, will make you a way better photographer. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you have any questions, you know where the comment section is, but YouTube recommends this video, I recommend this video. If you want to subscribe, hit that button, and I'll see you next week.